Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So now guys, we go back to June 12, 1993, and we pick up the story of MKO Abiola, a story that you are all already familiar with, I'm sure, and you all know what happened, so I'm not going to bore you with the details. So now we are picking up that story from June 12, 1993, and then we're now fast forwarding to 2018 and 2019. So now in this current climb, the name Abiola is starting to recur within the Nigerian space, and all of a sudden this guy's name has been brought back. Now when this guy's name was brought back, it was brought back by Malam Buhari, because Malam Buhari then, because his regime was floundering, because obviously he's a clueless man. We all know that. I'm not going to have a rant about Buhari this time around. We already know everything that there is to say, and you have already heard everything that I have to say about Buhari: an abject failure, a tribalist, religious extremist, dons, etc. I mean, you already know what I think of the guy, so I'm not going to, but that's not the narrative. But the narrative is, because of all of those lists, him being a dons, etc., his regime was floundering, so he was then advised to revoke or to invoke rather the name of MKO Abiola, because obviously that wouldn't resonate with the Yoruba people, and you know that obviously the Yoruba people control the media space in Nigeria. So if he's able to invoke the name of Abiola, then he's then able to then leverage that to the sentimentalities of the Yoruba people, because there's nobody on this planet more sentimental than the Yoruba person. Yoruba people are often, if not always, led by emotions. So he's able to then evoke their sentimentality and then use that as leverage to get himself back into alignment with the, well, at least not with the whole country, because the Igbos will never accept Malam Buhari. Even if he discovers the cure to cancer, the Igbos will never ever like him, because they've always hated him and they've always hated people like him. So, but he wanted the Yoruba on side, because if you had the Yoruba on side, and then obviously he already has his own clansmen, then that will be sufficient enough for him to hold firm. So then he invoked rather that name of Abiola, and then he suddenly started to trend that name, and then suddenly June 12 became Democracy Day. The National Stadium in Abuja was named after Abiola. I think Abiola was virtually then acknowledged as a president. I'm not sure if that was fully done, but there was a lot of Abiolaism going round over the last 8, 10, if not 12 months, and that really is just really, as I said, to tap into that sentimentality of the Yoruba mindset. But then that sentimentality of the Yoruba mindset is not really something that tells the full story or the full narrative of that Abiola storyline. So that's why we're going back to June 12, 93 to pick up the story from there. So now I am going to play you a clip shortly by a chap called Mustapha. Now the Mustapha fella was a key player within the Sani Abacha regime. And then when Sani Abacha fell, the Indian prostitutes and all that, and the induced apple, they said he had an induced apple. That's the narrative that they're saying led to his demise. But whatever it is, when Sani Abacha fell, this guy then suddenly found a vacuum within the Nigerian space, and then he then found himself suddenly in a situation which he had to address. And then of course he was then consulting with the Babangidas and the big names, etc., to see what can be done. But then you would recall that during that period, MKO Abiola was still in prison, and he was still agitating for the affirmation or the confirmation and the coronation of his rightly won electoral victories. So he was still insisting that he was going to be president, and he wanted to be president. So when Abacha died, Abiola was still alive and he was in prison, and this Al-Mustapha then held the keys to the country. But then of course he couldn't step forward because he was too low in ranking, and he did not have enough of a rigor to take over the Nigerian state. So he then obviously had to consult with the people that he felt were the movers and shakers. Essentially Babangida was who he consulted. So he then went on this consultation thing, which he then was then able to garner what to do. But then in the course of garnering what to do, there was a lady, I think her name is something Rice. I can't remember what her first name is, but her last name is Rice. She's an American envoy who visited Abiola in prison, and they had tea together. Now, before this American envoy visited Abiola in prison and they had that tea together, Abiola was hale and hearty, and he was joking with the people that were guarding him. He was reading newspapers, and he was in the full pomp of health. But then shortly after, this American lady, this American envoy, whose last name is Rice, but I can't quite recall her first name, but her last name is Rice. So now shortly after this American lady visited Abiola and had this tea with him, Abiola then shortly after died. He fell ill and then lost his life consequently. So effectively, the death of Abiola is attributed to that tea that he rather had with this American envoy, because now the thinking is that the American obviously did not want Abiola to take over, because obviously there's been such a hoo-ha around that Abiola name that there were forces now that were so hell-bent on Abiola not taking over. General Husseini, David Mark, etc., all these elements that held sway at that time, they were hell-bent that Abiola was never going to be the president. And the Americans then saw that this is a potentially difficult situation, but if one of the two key protagonists was gone, Hassani Abacha, which then leaves one protagonist, and all of the sub players are against this remaining protagonist that was the heir apparent to the throne. If he was still in place, then obviously then something had to be done. And then subsequently, this Miss Wright, because I don't think she's married, Miss Wright, or she wasn't at the time, so this Miss Wright then had this tea with Abiola, which then subsequently led to his demise. So now I am going to play you a video clip of our Mustapha then telling us about the aftermath of what's happened after Abiola's death and what then happened to the June 12 mandate. It's just so you can get a feel and a texture of what the Yoruba people are actually like sometimes and what really happened, because everybody is now coming out to say, oh, I played this big role and I fought this big battle, but really a lot of it is a lie. But then listen to it in our Mustapha's own words.
We should be looking at the larger issues. The question is, why should MKO Abiola be killed? And why should they be angry because I'm asking these questions? They should support me to uncover that first. Why? And they know the people. They shared money. Those who killed him shared money. I don't share money. So they are defending those who killed him, and they are attacking me because I have no money to share.
Now, when you say they share money, we would like to know more about that sharing of money.
I said it in the year 2001 at a Puta panel. Until this very moment, nobody challenged me. Until these few things that are coming up lately. In the year 2001, maybe people have forgotten. I know it's a long time now. I said it at a Puta panel. I tendered a tape. I tendered a document. The document that led to the withdrawal of money from Central Bank and the fictitious reasons given for the withdrawal of that money. That money was not meant for what it was written. Late Chief MKO Abiola was killed on the 8th of July. On the 9th, a letter was already taken to Central Bank, giving directives to the governor of Central Bank that time to release funds as stated. Signed by the president. Hundreds of millions of dollars. It's in that document. It's a public document. The Oputa panel has it. In the court, I tendered it. And I have my reasons for tendering it. Just to avoid people who will sit down and support those who came destroying this country. And that's why I tendered them, so that the documents and the evidence of videotapes can speak for me, even without me saying anything.
Where did this money go to?
Shared to people.
Which people?
The people that came fighting for late Chief MKO Abiola. Let me tell you what happened for you to know an example. Opadokun, who is busy abusing me right now, who claimed he never been to Abuja, on the 9th in the morning, an aircraft, presidential aircraft, was sent to pick him to the villa. And that is the same time this money was brought from Central Bank. And one may ask, Where were you at that time? Because General Abacha had died and you were supposed to have left the villa. I was still in the villa handing over. I left the villa on the 31st of July, that same year. So on the 8th, I was very much around. I had not finished handing over the villa because there were about 3 offices for me to hand over to the then new head of state. The office of CGS, there was nobody. And then there were custody of many things. The office of NSA, there were some other things that we had to introduce to the president, to the head of state then. At that material time, they came furious, coming to fight government over the murder of late Chief MKO Abiola. That was what brought them. And thank God, if you watch the tape, there were nasty comments they make for their readiness to sacrifice all they had for and on behalf of Yoruba nation for the murder of Chief MKO Abiola. You could see the bitterness. They went in. Soon after they came out, and that's why I videotaped it. The comments, the attitude, the mood changed. They were clapping hands and chatting and yearning, or within themselves. And then I thank God, one of the correspondents in the presidency, there were many correspondents who were colleagues at that time, if you can check back to history. Even local news covered it. But I covered my own deliberately and differently for many reasons. Because I wanted to keep the data right. Because things were not going right at that time. And what did they say when they were asked? The same of Adoko. The matter of MKO Abiola is gone. We are going to forge ahead. That is no longer an issue. This man was killed a few hours ago. This is the man you claim to be fighting in Nadeko. This is the man you claim to be your mentor. This is the last Oreona can come for. And you just go on some few minutes meeting and came out and say it's a foregone issue, that is not the matter at the moment, that it is no longer an issue, that you are going to forge ahead. How? How can this happen? What sense does this make? And now, because I'm talking of the same man, now I'm an enemy. This is what I'm talking about. If I hadn't any video collection, if I don't have the documents that brought about the money from Central Bank, you can call me names, but I have them.
So you have video of all this?
I have video of that visit.
Do you have video evidence of them giving these people money?
Inside the villa?
Yes.
Houses, they even went to Lagos, house to house, and money was shared. I refer you to 2001 and 2002, Ghanaian Adams interview. And I ask you one fundamental question. If lecture...
So there you heard Mustapha's narrative of what transpired during that June 12 period, with all of the Yoruba elites who were agitating and beating the drum beats of Wahala, suddenly turning up in the presidential jet at the presidential villa in Aso Rock. And after dollar bags had been exchanged, all these people that came in threatening fire and brimstone were high-fiving their way all the way back to Lagos with a bag full of dollars and thinking of all the babes that they are going to get with that and all whatnot. So now this is the Yoruba narrative. This is the Yoruba narrative, because they say for every two Yoruba person, there are 3 opinions. They cannot agree on anything. They don't really stand firm to anything. There's no real backbone to there's no resolve. This is one thing you will give to the Northerners. They have resolve. They take a position and they die with that position. But a Yoruba man takes a position, and as soon as a dollar sign comes up to be flashed in his face, that position takes a 360 degree and is the direct opposite of what he was so fervently hell-bent on not quite a minute ago. So this is really the goings on. So this June 12 narrative, there's a sub-story and there's a subplot in the background that is not known. So we're now bringing this out in small doses, and I'll be doing subsequent videos on this depending on what the reaction is to this particular video. So now this is what I am inviting: conversations around June 12, Abiola, what Mustapha said, and my commentary. So now, what is your opinion? Conversations in the comment section is what I am inviting. But before you come join me in the comment section to have that conversation, click on the red subscribe button so it turns gray. Click on the bell button as well. That way you are notified every time I drop a new video. Then come join me in the comment section. Let me know what you are making of all this. So I'll leave you here. Carry on this conversation with you in the comment section. But here I say peace.